So here's the deal. You head out to the store looking for a new pair of headphones, hoping to spend around $70. You spot some decent ones right away, $99. That's a little expensive. But then you notice another tag. Was $149, now $99, and boom. Suddenly $99 doesn't sound so bad. In fact, it seems like a steal. But why? Why would $99 seem like such a great deal compared to $100? As it turns out, you've fallen for a sneaky psychological phenomenon called the anchoring effect. And you're not alone. Every day we encounter situations where numbers, dates, or even people set the stage for our decisions. Even when those numbers have nothing to do with the situation at hand, they still influence how we think and behave. So let's unpack this intriguing effect, shall we? Let's uncover the truth behind the 99 headphones and explore how the anchoring effect shapes our lives in ways we never imagined. First off, to really understand the anchoring effect, we need to meet Dan Gilbert. He's a psychologist who won the Nobel Prize for explaining how people make decisions under conditions of risk and uncertainty. One of his key ideas was the idea of the mental toolbox, which suggests that our brains use different strategies to evaluate options. Sometimes we take the logical route, weighing all the pros and cons, but often we rely on mental shortcuts to make decisions quickly. And that's where the anchoring effect comes in. Imagine you're at a store trying to figure out if a $150 jacket is worth buying. Instead of carefully considering its quality and your need for it, you might quickly compare it to something more expensive, $200. Suddenly, $150 doesn't seem so bad. It's anchored to something more expensive, making it seem more reasonable by comparison. This is called relative anchoring. The first piece of information we see acts as a reference point or anchor for everything else we hear, even if it's not relevant. To demonstrate this, let's turn to a classic study by Tversky and Kahneman. They asked participants to estimate the percentage of African countries in the United Nations. But before answering, participants spun a wheel of fortune. Unbeknownst to them, the wheel was rigged to land on either 10 or 65, completely randomly. Those who spun the wheel and landed on 65 gave much higher estimates than those who spun 10, even though the wheel's outcome had nothing to do with the question. The first number they saw, whether it was 10 or 65, anchored their answer, regardless of the actual number. But why does this happen? Well, there are a couple of reasons. First, our brains love shortcuts. Anchoring allows us to quickly compare things without all the hard work of careful consideration. Second, we tend to overemphasize the first piece of information we receive, whether it's a price, a statistic, or an opinion. Anchors capture our attention and stick in our memory, influencing how we perceive everything that comes after. Now, you might be wondering, okay, so what's the big deal? Anchoring seems like a harmless mental shortcut, but the problem arises when anchors are used intentionally to manipulate our decisions. You see, anchors don't have to be real numbers. They can be descriptions, opinions, or even emotions. And when these anchors are planted by marketers, advertisers, or negotiators, we become vulnerable to subtle forms of influence. Consider online shopping. How many times have you seen a countdown timer on a limited time deal? Buy now, only 3 days left. Hurry up, only 2 items in stock. These anchors create a sense of urgency. They anchor our attention to the idea that time is running out, pushing us to make a quick decision. But is it a genuine concern or a clever marketing tactic? Anchoring isn't just used in shopping. It plays a big role in salary negotiations too. Imagine you're applying for a job and during the negotiation, the employer throws out a high starting salary, even if it's not the number they're aiming for. This anchor sets the stage for the rest of the discussion. Even if you counter with a lower offer, your anchor will affect how the whole conversation unfolds. It's not uncommon for employees to accept lower salaries if they start out higher. And guess what? Anchoring is also at play here. One study found that employers often name a high anchor number in hopes that their employees will base future performance evaluations on this inflated figure, leading to decreased pay raises. So protecting yourself against anchoring is crucial in various aspects of life. It can help you negotiate better deals, make smarter financial decisions, and even avoid falling for scams. First, you need to be aware of common anchoring tactics. For instance, be cautious when you see discounts like save $100 on this amazing product, now just $419. These anchors can make a pricey item seem like a bargain. If you want to avoid getting swept up in the hype, remember to pause and think critically. Ask yourself, is this discount genuinely good, or is it just an attempt to make the original price seem more appealing? Keep in mind that sometimes sellers may use the term was $499 to refer to a price they've never actually sold the product for. So do some digging before you buy. Check online reviews or search for the product elsewhere to see if the original price is accurate. Don't be afraid to look beyond the surface. Another handy tip is to anchor before entering a negotiation. By having a clear idea of your own target number, you're less likely to be swayed by someone else's anchor. This means doing your homework beforehand. Research the market value of a product or service and decide on a realistic budget. Once you have a solid anchor in mind, you'll be better equipped to handle whatever number gets thrown your way. Also, beware of decoy options. Decoy pricing is a sneaky tactic, where businesses offer an overpriced item alongside a more reasonable one to make it seem like a better deal. For example, a restaurant may list an extremely expensive meal on the menu to make other options seem relatively affordable. Now, why does this work? Well, we tend to evaluate things based on comparisons. When faced with three choices, we naturally compare the middle option to the extremes. Seeing an expensive meal on the menu anchors our perception of prices. It creates a focal point for comparison, making the more moderate options seem like the smart choice. For instance, if you see a steak dinner for $75, it anchors your perception of prices. Then when you consider a pasta dish for $25, it seems like a much better deal compared to the extravagant steak. To protect yourself from decoy pricing, be cautious of menus or product lists with extreme options. Just because something is listed at $75 does not mean it has to be the most expensive thing on the menu. A little skepticism can go a long way in recognizing manipulative tactics. And finally, you should always double-check the fine print. It's important to read the details because that's where the fine print can reveal hidden fees or limitations. For example, a streaming service might advertise a low monthly price, but when you read the fine print, you discover a hefty annual fee for shipping or equipment rental. Don't just rely on the initial anchor. Dig deeper and uncover any additional costs involved. So there you have it. By understanding the anchoring effect, you can navigate the world with a sharper eye, better decision-making skills, and the ability to spot those sneaky mental tricks. Remember, the first number is just the beginning. Don't let anchors dictate your choices. Instead, stay curious, keep questioning, and always dig for more information. Your wallet and your peace of mind will thank you for it. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay anchored to your own decision-making power. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay anchored to your own decision-making power.